Todd Blanch used to be Donald Trump's personal lawyer and owes his position entirely to his time as Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and has been loyally serving as number two to Pam Bondi. Indeed, it was Todd Blanch who went to Tallahassee in Florida and over 2 days interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell. The details of those conversations have never been fully and entirely disclosed, but shortly after they occurred, Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a much lower security jail in Texas, where she resides.
The man who used to defend Trump in court is now running the entire Department of Justice. Not through election, not through merit, through loyalty. And in a democracy that is built on the idea that justice operates independently of political power, that appointment is worth stopping and examining very carefully. Before we get into this, subscribe to the Public Cross-Examine, careful, evidence-led analysis of public arguments, no sensationalism, just what the facts actually show. So, Pam Bondi is out as Attorney General, fired by Donald Trump. Her time in office was turbulent, but one issue followed her throughout: the Epstein files. 3 million documents. A House Oversight Committee says those documents should, by law, be available to the public. Under Bondi, they stayed locked away. Her replacement as acting Attorney General is Todd Blanch, Trump's former personal lawyer, a man who owes his entire career trajectory to one person, the same man who flew to Tallahassee, Florida, and spent 2 days alone in conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell. What was said in that room has never been fully disclosed. What happened shortly after is on the record. Maxwell was quietly transferred to a lower security prison in Texas. That is where she is today. Now that same man is running the Justice Department. In a healthy democracy, the institutions that hold power to account need to be free from the influence of the people they are supposed to be scrutinizing. What we are looking at here raises serious questions about whether that line still exists. Let's go through the exchange, and then I will give my thoughts at the end.
Let me go back to the breaking news that I think we were first to bring you at about 10 to 6. We can now confirm that Pam Bondi has been fired by as Attorney General by President Donald Trump. That initial report by Fox News now being confirmed by multiple news organizations. Pam Bondi gone from the Department of Justice after what I think it is fair to say has been a tumultuous period in office, particularly, of course, because of the fact that she has been accused of engaging in a cover-up over the Epstein files. And if indeed it is confirmed that Lee Zeldin, currently the Environmental Protection Agency chief, who, by the way, parenthetically, has done an enormous amount to roll back environmental protections in the United States since he was placed in that role by President Donald Trump. If he is taking over at the Department of Justice, boy, that is a very hot political potato to be picking up, particularly because, of course, he's going to have to decide how to deal with a House Oversight Committee that wants an explanation. We can talk now to Sidney Blumenthal, the journalist, veteran Democratic Party strategist, a former Clinton advisor. Sidney Blumenthal, thanks so much for joining us on LBC tonight. Not exactly a surprise that Pam Bondi has gone, but it's a decision with some pretty potentially significant implications, no?
Well, as Dickens wrote in the old curiosity shop, you'd have to have a heart of stone. Actually, it was Oscar Wilde who said about the death of Little Nell in the Dickens' old curiosity shop. You'd have to have a heart of stone not to laugh. Apparently, there is no bar for being a flunky in the Trump administration. She was the perfect flunky. She insulted every senator in a hearing, in the worst hearing that was ever perpetrated. She oversaw the censoring of and deletion and redaction of Trump's name in all incidents involving him in the Epstein files, although one of them got through last week, and about Mar-a-Lago and whether or not he was commercializing the documents he had stolen. And perhaps he was angry about that mistake.
I mean, there were several.
It's hard to say why he fired Bondi. He's very angry. He's in a rage right now. And he's sort of rage quitting everything and taking it out on everybody. He can never accept blame, so he's got to blame somebody. He's lost a lot of law cases this week, including one on the ballroom where a judge stopped the building of his massive Roman ballroom. And he could be blaming Bondi for that. It's hard to tell with Trump exactly what it is.
I mean, she had been so loyal and so pliant, even in the face of accusations by Republicans on the House Oversight Committee that she was engaged in a cover-up of the Epstein files, the holding back of 3 million additional pages of documents that members of the Oversight Committee argue should, by law, be placed into the public domain. He's got to be very careful in terms of choosing his successor. I see that he hasn't named Lee Zeldin in his social media posting, but he's going to want someone similarly pliant, isn't he, who's going to go along with the piercing of the Department of Justice's traditional independence.
He sees the Department of Justice as his personal law firm in the style of his original lawyer, Roy Cohn, who was a mob lawyer. And that's what he wishes to the Justice Department to be. Lee Zeldin is an undistinguished former congressman from Long Island, New York. He's now the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. But the firing of Bondi sends a signal to everyone in the Trump camp that there is no standard of loyalty that can ever really be met, and that you are subject to his whim and rage.
If you're a member of the House Oversight Committee today, having already issued a subpoena to Pam Bondi, legally requiring her to testify, although, of course, as Attorney General, she would essentially be able to decide whether to launch, the criminal action necessary to enforce that subpoena. What do you think the House Oversight Committee does now about its desire to get to the bottom of the Epstein files and why they are being withheld? Do they just immediately subpoena her successor?
Well, she's not escaped from being subpoenaed now or in the future, whether or not she holds the office, because she has information. And she has not escaped. She lacks the supposed shield of the executive branch now that she has been thrown out. But Trump could claim executive privilege over everything that she has done. But she is in for a world of hurt because she'll have to defend herself personally. And the process, as it is said, is the punishment, because the legal expenses personally are exorbitant.
Absolutely. And of course, she no longer has the shield of the office to protect her in that regard. Sidney Blumenthal, thanks so much for joining us on the programme tonight. Sidney Blumenthal, the journalist, veteran Democratic Party strategist, former Clinton advisor from 1997 to 2001, reacting to the news that Pam Bondi has been fired as Attorney General of the United States. That's the biggest scalp yet to be taken in the Trump administration's second term in office, and we'll wait to see if indeed Lee Zeldin is Donald Trump's choice to succeed her. A little bit more about Pam Bondi, fired as Donald Trump's Attorney General. An interesting move by President Trump. He has named the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanch, to serve as acting Attorney General. And I'll tell you why that's interesting. Because Todd Blanch used to be Donald Trump's personal lawyer and owes his position entirely to his time as Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and has been loyally serving as number two to Pam Bondi. Indeed, it was Todd Blanch who went to Tallahassee in Florida and over 2 days interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell. The details of those conversations have never been fully and entirely disclosed, but shortly after they occurred, Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a much lower security jail in Texas, where she resides today. So I think there is going to be a question now about whether that acting status as acting Attorney General on the part of Todd Blanch indicates that Donald Trump is having second thoughts about moving Lee Zeldin, the Environmental Protection Agency chief, into the top job at the Department of Justice, or maybe he's just trying to sequence all of this so that there is no leadership vacuum inside the building. I think there'll be some nervous Democrats and some Republicans on Capitol Hill learning the news that Donald Trump's former personal lawyer is, for now at least, running the Department of Justice.
Let's be clear about what actually happened here. This is not just a cabinet reshuffle. This is not Trump losing patience with a loyal aide and moving on. What happened today has a very specific shape, and once you see it, it is difficult to unsee. Pam Bondi was Attorney General. She protected the Epstein files, 3 million documents that a House Oversight Committee says belong in the public domain. Under her watch, those documents stayed locked away. Republicans and Democrats on that committee pushed back. She held the line. And then she was fired. Her replacement as acting Attorney General is Todd Blanch, not a career prosecutor, not someone who came up through the ranks of federal law enforcement. A man who spent years as Donald Trump's personal defense lawyer. That is his qualification. That is how he arrived at the top of the United States Department of Justice. Now here is where it gets important. Todd Blanch flew to Tallahassee, Florida. He spent 2 days in private conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell, just the two of them. Whatever was discussed in those meetings has never been fully disclosed to the public. And shortly after those conversations took place, Maxwell was quietly transferred from a higher security facility to a lower security prison in Texas. No detailed public explanation, no press conference, it just happened. And the man who conducted those interviews is now running the Justice Department. Again, that is not opinion. That is a sequence of events that is on the record. Sidney Blumenthal makes a comparison in this exchange that is worth sitting with. He describes Trump's relationship with the Justice Department as identical to his relationship with Roy Cohn, his original lawyer, a man who operated at the edge of the law on behalf of powerful clients. The idea being that Trump has never viewed the Justice Department as an independent institution. He views it as a resource, something to be used, and with Blanch in place, that vision is now closer to reality than it has ever been. There is also a point about Bondi herself that should not get lost in the noise. She is out of office, but she is not out of reach. The subpoena that the House Oversight Committee issued does not disappear because she was fired. She still has information. She can still be called to testify. And now she faces that prospect without the protection of the office, without the department's legal resources behind her, as a private individual with her own legal bills to pay. Blumenthal calls it plainly. The process is the punishment. What this exchange keeps coming back to is a question that matters for anyone who cares about how democratic institutions actually function. The Justice Department exists to apply the law without fear or favor. That independence is not decoration. It is the thing that makes the institution legitimate in the eyes of ordinary people. When the person running it owes their entire career to the man they are supposed to hold accountable, that legitimacy does not just bend, it breaks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there is any version of this where a personal lawyer running the Justice Department is consistent with democratic accountability? If this kind of breakdown is useful, subscribe to the Public Cross Exam. Thanks for watching.